On August 24th, 2017, the Half-Life community awoke to the biggest news since the release of Episode 2. Mark Laidlaw, one of the main writers of the Half-Life series, who had at this point been retired for years, just released the script for Episode 3. The entire Half-Life community was shocked at this event. It is important to note that Mark Laidlaw did state that his work was merely fanfiction, not to be seen as an actual continuation. He also since regrets posting it, and actually deleted the article off his website in May last year. I have a full video dedicated to Epistle 3, the name of the story that Mark Laidlaw published, which explains the story and community fallout in a lot more detail. Recapping the story won't be the main focus of this video. The story is incredibly beautiful, and I suggest you to read it for yourself or to watch my video on it, as summarizing it in a short way would be a shame. But I will do so anyway. Eli dead, we search Borealis, we find Mossman at Borealis, Alyx kills her, Borealis flies towards the Combine world and will explode shortly, though Gordon realizes it won't do anything that actually hurts the Combine. Alyx gets plucked out of there by the G-Man and Gordon gets saved by the Vortigons. Depending on which of the multiple endings Mark Laidlaw gave, Gordon either finds himself on a beach in the future and nobody remembers him, or back in time right before boarding the Black Mesa tram on that fateful day. The end. This video is about one certain aspect of the community fallout of Epistle 3 releasing. That being the modding side of it. Mods that plan to remake Mark Laidlaw's vision of a sequel. A sequel which, after many years of not hearing anything, most believe to be dead, Epistle 3 being the final nail in the coffin of sorts. We'll talk about all the projects that sprung up during that time and why to this day, we still have no actual mod recreating the story of Epistle 3. Thinking of Episode 3 got me thinking about Christmas, sitting on the couch, cuddled up and enjoying time with my family. But family is also pretty boring. If only there was the perfect mobile game to spend my time on. Oh wait, what's that? Is that the sponsor of this video? This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is a completely free-to-play fantasy RPG that offers amazing graphics. Graphics you would basically only see in PC or console games. Play it casually or compete to be the best alongside millions of other players. Collect and customize over 800 completely unique champions in billions of ways and take on awesome bosses in what is endless content thanks to monthly updates. My personal favorite champion is the War Priest of the Sacred Order. Throughout December, Raid is getting into the festive spirit with a multitude of Yuletide events. Presents await those who embark on this holiday event. To join, simply download Raid using my link in the description or the QR code on screen. Copy your in-game player ID and then go visit raidxmans.com from December 15th to January 10th. Once you enter your player ID, you can join Sir Nicholas across the Red Spike Mountains and play through various minigames along your adventure, with each earning you amazing in-game items including epic and legendary champions and even real-life goodies like Amazon gift cards. And fret not, if you're already an existing Raid player, you can still join in the festive fun by visiting raidxmas.com, where you can find a special promo code that everyone can redeem and earn a small in-game gift. Think of this as a digital stocking stuffer. There is another massive present to unwrap, the Cursed City. It's a major update with 100 stages, challenging battles against 2 bosses simultaneously, and the chance to win a mythical champion. So what are you waiting for? Don't miss out on the festive fun and download Raid Shadow Legends this holiday season using my QR code or the link in the description. You get 2 epic champions with my link, not 1 but 2 at once. Light Swan, a very strong champion from the Sacred Order. His kit allows you to keep the team alive with the increased defense buff and a revive on death skill. The second one is Juliana, which you receive after reaching level 15, an epic champion and a boss killer from the Sacred Order. She's an attack type warrior wielding magic affinity, thus powerful against enemies with affinity. Once you've downloaded the game, come find me under the name One Lucia and join my clan called Lucia's Guild, and we'll be legends together. So just hit my link in the description and I'll see you on the battlefield. Not even a day after Epistle 3 was released, a subreddit called Dreams of Half-Life 3 was created, centered around a team of modders planning on recreating Epistle 3 as a game. Only a day after the subreddit creation did they create a Twitter account, called Project Borealis, on which they immediately went ahead and shared their very first creations. This texture of ice followed by this Combine wall covered in snow. The subreddit started filling with suggestion posts. It was a wild time to be around. The team behind Project Borealis actually supported this and wanted as much community input as possible, given that they were all simply modders of the community that were volunteering to help. It would only be 2 short months when they would post their first status update. Update 1, the inaugural update. Here they would show off concept art and models they made. Some pretty exciting stuff. They also showcased some music that they made, which take a listen. I think this sounds very Half-Life-y. There was however one point of contention in the eyes of the Half-Life community. Project Borealis was going to be made with Unreal Engine 4. For anyone unaware, the Source engine is the game engine Half-Life 2, Episode 1 and Episode 2 used. It's beloved by fans even to this day. It was a revolutionary engine at its time, and games like Garry's Mod for example can attribute some of its success to it. because so many people wanted to experiment around with the Source engine, especially because of its physics. The switch to Unreal Engine 4 was made for a number of reasons, the most obvious and glaring one being that Source is very outdated now. They much preferred the pipeline of Unreal Engine 4, which is something that the team stated in an interview with 80.lv. They also mentioned that they were aware of what switching to Unreal Engine meant, that they would do their best to recreate the crisp movement we know and love from Source games, including airstrafing, bunny hopping and just the general vibe of Half-Life 2's gameplay. Something they believe to be very possible with a flexible Unreal Engine. They would also use the opportunity to improve certain aspects. For example, ladders, which most are in agreement that these are pretty clunky in Source. Source 2 was at this time only used in Dota 2. They would later state that they would have loved to have used Source 2, but that it simply wasn't ready at the time. Many fans would have preferred the game in one of the Source engines. They would not need to wait long though. Before even getting to post their second update, a new project was announced, Boreal Alyph. In a post in r/keepawayfromfire, the subreddit made for the team of the same name, they announced that they were going to be working on their own version of Epistle 3. However, this time in Source 1. While both teams were working towards the same overall thing, that being telling the story of Epistle 3 in form of a game, they had different visions in pulling this off. Project Borealis was looking to fully modernize the game and while still keeping the same overall vibe of Half-Life 2 and its episodes, wanted to make a game that felt modern. Boreal Alyph, however, wanted to stay very close to the source, literally, going for more of a classic vibe we know and love. Taking a look at a gameplay video released only a few months after the initial announcement, this looks a lot closer to a game that would have released somewhere around the time the episodes did, something that many fans preferred over a modernized version of Half-Life. To be clear, this rivalry between the mods I'm building up right now wasn't actually anything close to that. In fact, both mods were supportive of one another and the community was grateful for both of them. I mean, after waiting for close to 10 years for Episode 3, they were now getting 2 at once. There's absolutely nothing to complain about there. There were also some third parties getting involved. Take for example the Epistle 3ville, a community mapping challenge that lasted for only 50 hours hosted on Run Things Should Live, a Half-Life modding site. Contestants had to create a map inspired in some way by Mark Laidlaw's writing, and while most definitely show that they only had about 50 hours of time, there is one specifically I'd like to shout out that created a really detailed product for the short time it was given, that being Project Borealis by Epistle. It is funnily enough, even to this day, the very best Epistle 3 content and on top of that, the only actual one. This released only a few months after Epistle 3 itself did. Some of you are probably screaming right now. I know there is one more, I'll get to that one later. I want to quickly speak on the topic of Valve. Some of you may think that Valve will have a problem with teams coming together to essentially create Episode 3. Companies like Nintendo or basically any other company 100% would. If you have been around the Valve community for a bit, you have probably already assumed correctly that Valve didn't care at all. Valve is incredibly lax when it comes to community creations, which is always great to see. So yeah, Valve does not care and thus the projects can continue as they want to. Only a few months after Boreal Alyph shared their first video, Project Borealis did as well. This one managed to win over a lot of the community. They showed off some of the basics, weapons, movement, flashlight, the HUD. While it's hard to tell what the movement feels like through a video, all the aspects were looking really promising. An incredible feat was managed. They further mentioned in the update that they managed to flesh out a full draft of the script of the game, using all of Mark Laidlaw's elements and fleshing them out more, especially to create more space for gameplay. Come fall that year, both Boreal Alyph and Project Borealis would post their biggest updates yet. Project Borealis showed a ton of gameplay, including some of the most important aspects. For example, the gravity gun and prop physics. They further explained that it was very important for them that fans were happy with what they created and that they would tweak it until this was the case. They also once were promised that they would get as close to Half-Life 2 as possible while still adding some improvements to make the world feel more alive. As an example of this, they talked about dynamic music, something we actually eventually got in Half-Life Alyx. They also talked about their upcoming tech demo that would be set in an Arctic version of Ravenholm. Overall, a very promising update. Boreal Alyph shared some progress they made at updating the Source engine. They managed to implement physically based rendering, a technique used in most modern games that helped make things look a lot more real by giving more accurate shading and reflections, a huge addition to Source. They also implemented subsurface scattering, which is a term that describes when light passes through things, for example and most importantly, human skin. It helps make people and faces look even more real. They also added a brand new sound system that features reverb. Both games were heading in a very promising direction. About half a year later we would get the biggest piece of media to come out of any Epistle 3 mod yet. Project Borealis Update 5. Update 5 blew it out of the park. It released in June of 2019. It started off with fairly basic but still exciting stuff, showcasing some levels and gameplay in them, which also showed some cool snow effects. Not
achieved with
Source.
A ton of concept art was shown, models they created and a more realistic sound system similar to Boreal Alyph, albeit a little more realistic. Personally, I must say that I think this actually sounded worse than the one of Boreal Alyph. Perhaps sacrificing a bit of realism would have been the better choice here, but obviously this is all still a work in progress. However, all of the previously mentioned things paled in comparison to the physics they showcased in a later segment of this video. They moved to Epic Games' new physics engine, Chaos, which allows for a lot more realistic destruction and improves overall performance. Not only did they manage to create perfect gravity gun interactions, they improved them to have somewhat of an AoE attack, affecting props near where you're shooting. They also managed to have a massive amount of props interact with one another smoothly, something the Source 2 engine would later also do in Half-Life Alyx. They used this to add an alt-fire to the gravity gun that allowed for not only one prop to be picked up, but instead for a vortex to be created that sucks up all props nearby and allows the player to launch all of them at once. Furthermore, they added realistic wind. As the game would be set in the Arctic and thus in a very windy environment, this was a very important aspect to get right. Air drag was also implemented, which I didn't know how cool this makes physics look. Look at this. Flat planes now float realistically. This video made its rounds through every single video game news site you can think of. It sits at almost 1 million views today. It's to this day the video that most people think of when thinking of Project Borealis. Boreal Alyph went on to release a mini update, as they themselves called it, in October of 2019. This wasn't too exciting. It showcased some early level design and models. Still some pretty cool stuff, but it's obviously hard to follow what Project Borealis had just released. At this point, a shocking revelation happened to all Epistle 3 projects. Half-Life Alyx was announced. For anyone still unspoiled, skip to here, as heavy spoilers will be mentioned. Project Borealis released a blog post about Half-Life Alyx, stating that Valve said that even though it is a prequel, fans should play Half-Life 2 and its episodes before Half-Life Alyx, which might mean that there could be some bigger lore tie-in in Half-Life Alyx. They did however mention that they are planning to treat Half-Life Alyx as canon. Surely Half-Life Alyx won't change anything about the plans of making an Episode 3 mod, right? At the end of the day, it's just a prequel, right? Well, with Eli revived and Alyx taken by the G-Man, this would be quite the big shake-up to anyone trying to tell Epistle 3. The official response from Project Borealis was posted on their Twitter about a month after release. Just a quick update from the Project Borealis team that while Half-Life Alyx has provided us with a huge amount of inspiration and motivation, we're continuing to work on the game using Epistle 3 as the base for our story. Meaning that they are, depending on how the time travel aspect of Half-Life Alyx truly plays out, and if there are two timelines or not, either going with the original timeline, or straight up ignoring Half-Life Alyx as canon and simply fulfilling Mark Laidlaw's fanfiction, which I believe was the right thing to do either way. Boreal Alyph followed with a statement only a day afterwards. They actually had a unique take on this, saying that now they know for a fact that Valve is not going with Epistle 3, thus they are no longer in competition with Valve, which is a nice way of looking at it actually. So while I bet it would have been interesting to see someone mix Epistle 3 with the now canon events brought to us by Half-Life Alyx, both projects were aiming at simply doing what Mark Laidlaw wrote, which is absolutely fair and also the right decision in my opinion. With this, Half-Life Alyx has no further relevance to this topic. Project Borealis would go on to post another pretty big video in which I showcase the awesome physics even more and explaining the systems behind it, including more showcases of the realistic wind and air drag and a video of them fully destroying a building using grenades in a really realistic manner. This stuff looked awesome. Realistic destruction like this has always been a part of Half-Life 2 and its episodes. It was however not real-time destruction for the most part, unlike what we are seeing here in Project Borealis. Boreal Alyph showcased Odell, a cut character of Half-Life 2 who was planned to be seen on the Borealis at a time where the Borealis was to be seen in the beginning chapters of the game. They also did an asset showcase, showcasing a ton of really awesome looking stuff. Only a month later did they showcase a gun range and all the weapons they have programmed, all of them sounding really great, the animations and models also looking incredible. Only a few months later, in February of 2021, did we get an actual gameplay showcase. A really promising gameplay video at that. It showcased some great looking environments, some great sounding weapons, and some of the graphical improvements they implemented. Project Borealis kept quiet at this time. Things were however looking really promising, until eventually... In a Twitter post made on the 7th of June 2021, Keep Away From Fire announced that Boreal Alyph is likely being shelved permanently, not revealing a whole lot of the why. They will however do their best to share as much of their resources with the modding community as possible. It seems to be a curse that big Half-Life mods, especially ones with a huge team behind them, simply never end up being finished. They announced that they would be working separately and would be sharing the project. Avi, someone who was with Keep Away From Fire at the time, would go on to state why the project was cancelled, stating that the scope was way too large compared to what the team could achieve, organizational issues within the team, unstable tools and lack of level designers, and that it was an Epistle 3 project. It was further confirmed by the text collector man that it wasn't some sort of drama or anything, in a pretty lengthy amount of tweets, further explaining that it was simply the scope of the project that caused it to fail. So now at this point, only Project Borealis was left. The latest teaser can be found on the Twitter, which says, loading, PB_TWN_5Y, seemingly announcing a 5-year special of some sorts, TWN most likely referring to Ravenholm, as those levels were referred to as Town in the fights of Half-Life 2. Remember how they announced that Ravenholm tech demo? It still hasn't released, even to this day. Perhaps this was supposed to be that, which was now over a year ago. So yeah, that is where the story for Project Borealis ended thus far. More to hopefully come. We do have 2 new contenders however that are still somewhat recent. There is Epistle 3 Minimalist mod, a mod that released pretty much out of nowhere in October of 2022. A mod met with so much hate that it deleted itself off the internet. Actually, I'm not too sure about that, but knowing the Half-Life community, this doesn't seem unlikely. But yeah, whatever may be the true cause, it's gone. You can still find it on Nexus mods though. The only description it has is that it isn't a gold source mod, as minimalist in Half-Life mods usually refers to something made in source being remade in gold source. The mod features some awesome chapters like the beginning of the Arctic, or the return of the administrator. The mod is a somewhat hastily thrown together quick retelling of Epistle 3. It's somewhat goofy but playable. Somewhat. It features a ton of bad game design practices, bad grammar, and Alyx AI that is somehow worse than that of Dr. Rosenberg in Blue Shift. Still, a shame that it got deleted. With its release, it officially managed to become the very first actual mod retelling the full events of Epistle 3, even if it's now deleted. However, there is the other promising new contender, one that actually seems to be taking the project pretty seriously. Half-Life 2 Infinite Finality. The name being a reference to the ending of Epistle 3's story. It popped up out of nowhere. The first post on the ModDB page was made in April of this year, 2023. It's made by Team Hyperborea, who, going by their first post, used to be a team of 8 people but have since upgraded to a total of 18 people. This mod was announced immediately as a source mod. They went on to post a soundtrack on YouTube throughout the year, which sounds pretty great I must say. Then they released a gameplay reveal, which was only 4 weeks ago at this point. It's clearly stated that it's all work in progress, and that they also used AI to voice Alyx until they managed to find someone to voice her. And while this might lack certain graphical improvements of Boreal Alyph or improved mechanics of Project Borealis, it looks pretty fleshed out. It looks a lot like something that you would expect to see in an Episode 3 would it have released back when it was planned to, somewhere around 2010. It does look a little rough around the edges still, something that will most likely be improved. And also state at the end that a Chapter 1 demo is coming in 2024, a huge promise. This project is the one that a lot of people are betting their money on now, so to speak. It does look incredibly promising. It's crazy how even in this current day, Epistle 3 is still this relevant and mods are still being worked on. A total of 6 years later. Bet you guys didn't realize it has been that long, huh? It is to assume that Project Borealis is still being worked on as well. 1 year of radio silence is funnily enough not that long for a Half-Life mod. So as it's standing right now, we have 2 projects to wait on. Project Borealis and Infinite Finality. To this day, the biggest way to help out the project is by sharing their videos and applying if you think you can help them. If you want to follow any of the active projects, they are linked in the description. If any updates release, I'll let you know. And remember, be sure to download Raid Shadow Legends using my link or QR code to get 2 epic heroes for free. So yeah, consider subscribing and joining the Discord. Also, if you want to help out the channel, become a channel member for some cool perks and your name at the end of my videos. So yeah, otherwise, thank you for watching.